So, you guys hear? JoJo's is ending. That's weird. So, obviously I have my own personal opinions about the way JoJo's is ending, and I want to eventually discuss them in a video, but I'm going to save that for once we have the whole picture and the final chapter is released. But for now, I want to look ahead towards the future of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, past JoJo's. I want to talk about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 9. Now, we don't know for certain that there's going to be another part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Araki's in his 60s now, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's just decided, hey, I don't want to spend the next decade of my life on another part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. JoJo's is a decent enough cutting off point, so let's just end it here, where we can have a very conclusive end to the story as a whole. That being said, I do think we are going to get a Part 9. Specifically because of the way Shueisha is announcing the end of JoJo's. They're specifically saying it's the end of JoJo's, not JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I feel like if it was the end of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, they'd be milking it a lot harder. So the fact that they're not saying that is kind of indicative that Araki intends to continue the series. So I just want to take this brief period before the end of JoJo's to kind of put out my thoughts on what I would want to see from a Part 9 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, do keep in mind that when I say things I'd like to see in Part 9, I'm not saying things that I think Part 9 needs. In fact, none of these things could happen, and Part 9 could still be my favorite part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. In general, Araki seems to work best when he has an idea that just sort of strikes him in the moment. These are more things that, were I to see them in a Part 9 of JoJo, I would get really excited. So I have my list here, but this is going to be mostly unscripted, and none of these points are in a particular order. It's just a collection of things I'd like to see. Number 1, I'd like for Josuke and Yasuho to both be the parents of the new protagonist, and I would like them both to be actively involved in the story together as a unit. Now, it isn't entirely uncommon for a Joestar to return in a future part, where they act as a sort of mentor character for the protagonist of that part. It's happened with Joseph and it's happened with Jotaro. But in the case of a Part 9, I would want Josuke and Yasuho to be together and acting as a collective unit as that mentor character. JoJo's really solidified the two of them as one collective pair, and if they were to return in a Part 9, it would feel kind of like a disservice to their relationship for them to not both be there and act as like one mentor figure and kind of kick ass together. Also, in general, I would prefer they take more of a Joseph type role than a Jotaro type role in the events of the story, where they're kind of generally present at all times, even if they're not actively involved in every single threat. Number 2, I would like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 9 to keep a smaller, more manageable cast of characters. For me, many of JoJo's issues stem from the fact that its supporting cast was so large that not a lot of the characters got their own time in the limelight to quite the degree that they needed. So in a Part 9, I would prefer something a little bit closer to Steel Ball Run in terms of the size of the main cast and the general important supporting characters that surround it. I don't think it needs to be quite to the degree of Steel Ball Run, where there's just 2 main characters, but something a bit closer, like just 3 or 4 main characters and a lot more condensed supporting cast, like just a few characters more. A more tight-knit cast, I feel, would be able to elaborate on the characters' personalities a lot more, and I feel that would be overall better for the story. Number 3, I would like there to be no direct connection to the original universe of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, when I say no direct connection, I don't mean things like, oh, don't remix original universe characters, or don't have references to the original universe at all. I mean, don't have there be crossover of characters from the original universe coming to the new universe, or characters from the new universe coming over to the original universe. I firmly believe that these two universes exist as separate entities, and to have them cross over in that way would feel just strange and out of place and kind of a bit too fan servicey. I haven't seen any examples of it recently, but there used to be a large section of the fanbase that really wanted the delinquent that saved Josuke's life to be either Josefumi or Gappy. Something like that just feels really weird and unnecessary, so yeah, none of that please. Number 4. This one is probably the one that I would get most excited to actually see happen, and that is I want the main protagonist of JoJo Part 9 to not be one character, but 2. I want them to be twins based on Giorno and Jolene. From Part 7 onwards, it has sort of been a remix of original universe parts of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Like Steel Ball Run was sort of a remix of Phantom Blood with aspects of Battle Tendency, and then at the very end Stardust Crusaders incorporated into it, and JoJolion was pretty much a fusion of both Stardust Crusaders and Diamond is Unbreakable. So following that trend, it would seem that Part 9 would be a remix of both Golden Wind and Stone Ocean. Now that would require that whoever is the protagonist of Part 9 to either reflect aspects of Giorno or Jolene. There's pretty much an unlimited amount of potential directions you could go with this, but the one that I personally think would be the coolest is to have the protagonist be 2 characters, one who is based on Giorno and one who is based on Jolene, and kind of have it so that, hey, JoJo is actually 2 Joes. One Joe who is Giorno and the other Joe who is Jolene. In the original universe, Giorno and Jolene had pretty much nothing to do with each other. Their paths never crossed and their stories were completely disjointed, not to mention they were pretty much as far apart on the bloodline as you could get with 2 characters that lived at the same time. That being said, if you're going to remix both Golden Wind and Stone Ocean, you have the chance to give these characters a sort of interesting new relationship that the original universe counterparts never would have been able to have. Not only that, but an amicable sibling relationship isn't really something we've seen from the protagonist of a JoJo part, and I think that could lead to something really special. Number 5, I want a brief glimpse into what's going on with the Higashikata family at the point where Part 9 takes place. This could come in any number of ways. Things I mostly want to see are Mitsuba's unborn child, what ends up becoming of them, what their name is, so forth. And also I want to see Joshu as a business magnate for the Higashikata fruit parlor, just because I think it would be very funny. And I kind of want to see what's going on with the family once they've lost, Jobin and Kato and so on. I'm not entirely sure to what degree I want their involvement in the story, but I would want to at least see a small glimpse of what's going on with them at the very least. Number 6, I would want some musical reference to David Bowie's Black Star, and this one is a bit more specific than the others, but there's a reason for it. David Bowie's death kind of represented a lot for that kind of era of the glam rock that JoJo takes so much of its identity from. So I just find the idea of Black Star, David Bowie's final album, to really fit the identity of the final part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and to see it referenced in the part would be very meaningful, I think. For number 7 and 8, I'm actually going to put them together because they're sort of linked. And that is, for number 7, I would like a conclusion to the spin as a concept. And for number 8, I would like JoJo in space, aka the Joestars among the stars. Now, this one requires a bit of elaboration. So, since part 7, we've had the gradual evolution of the spin as a concept. When it was used in part 7, it was used with the steel ball, and it was pretty much just an introduction to the concept. But when we came into JoJolion, we kind of had it on a microscopic level with the vibrating lines that were used to create Gappy's bubbles. But in the event of a part 9, I would want to see it go in the opposite direction and show the spin on a macro level. And that involves essentially the spin of galaxies and just the concept of orbit of celestial forces. When you take a step back and look at the concept of the spin as it pertains to the universe as a whole, you can get like so many incredible ideas. For example, you could say that the source of all spin energy in the universe came from the Big Bang, and tie it into the more theological side of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure with Jesus existing and the sort of JoJolian concepts of miracles and curses and blessings. If you're going to take a look at the spin on a macro level and have examples of like planets and galaxies and the universe spinning, then I feel the best way to have the characters visualize that is to take them up into space. And I don't know if anyone else has felt this, but personally, since the beginning of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, as early as Phantom Blood, I've always felt that the inevitable endgame of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was always to go into space. We have this main family literally named the Joestars, and it kind of just feels like the natural endpoint to have them essentially dance among the stars. And if you think about it, it just sort of feels like a perfect way to remix Stone Ocean. I mean, the final plotline of Stone Ocean is them traveling to the Kennedy Space Center and the universe resetting. That just kind of works with this whole idea of the gravitational spin of planets and galaxies and stuff like that. And it would just feel like an incredible payoff to everything JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has been building up to. And that brings me to the final point, number 9, and I feel this one is sort of obvious, a given, but I figured I'd mention it anyway. I want part 9 to have grand finale energy. I want it to feel grandiose in scale, and to feel like a suitable send-off for not only the Steel Ball Run universe, but JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as an entire franchise. Part 9, if it exists, will absolutely be the final part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Whatever happens, it should feel big and it should feel momentous. Make Poochie's Heaven Plan feel like child's play in comparison. And that is the final point that I wanted to make. Again, these are just things that I would like to see. They're not necessarily things that I feel Part 9 needs, but hey, if any of these things end up happening, I will be a very happy camper. But again, to reiterate, Part 9 is not a guarantee. It's very possible that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure will end with JoJolion, leaving us with the final arc of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure being guardrail themed. Huh.